Dear students, welcome to Tungal online classes. So in the last video we discussed the anatomical aspects of earthworm, and in this video let us start with a new animal, that is frog. Right? What are the anatomical aspects as well as morphological aspects are there? So in frogs, so let us see one by one. Now, so frog itself is an amphibian. Itself is an amphibian animal, right? Whenever we see the systematic position of this animal, that moment it comes under kingdom Animalia, right? And phylum Chordata, subphylum Vertebrata, right? Class Amphibia, order Anura, and genus Rana, species Tigrina. Right? As you know, in India, so Rana tigrina is mostly available species, right? So that is why we are studying, keeping an example of this Rana tigrina. Indian species it is, right? It is one of the Indian species, right? So that is why, keeping it as an example, let us go through the characteristic feature of these frogs. As you know, the frogs come under amphibia. Amphibia, this is the group of animals, so whose body is modified so as to live both in water as well as on land, right? So that kind of modifications are usually seen in the frogs. That's why these are called as amphibia. And one more point to be noted over here, why these are called as amphibians is because so they depend on water for their reproduction. That's why these are also known as amphibians. Amphi means two, bias means living places. So these are the animals which live in two places. So right, whose body is adapted to live in two places, that is in water as well as on land. Such kind of animals are said to be as what? Amphibians. There are some unique features are there with these amphibians. What are those unique features? Let us see one by one now. See here, these animals, that is frogs, usually these animals are not seen during two seasons, especially in winter season as well as in summer season. In winter season as well as in summer season, usually frogs are not available to see. Why? Because these are the seasons in which these animals make their own burrows and live inside those burrows and respire with the help of their skin and utilize the fat material what is stored under the skin as their food material. They do not consume any food and they do not come out of those burrows, and such kind of so the condition is known as the sleep. That is nothing but during winter season they go for sleep, and that sleep is called as what? Winter sleep and summer sleep. So they go for sleep. So in summer season, so as to avoid, so as to escape from these two, so extreme conditions, extreme cold, extreme hot condition, so as to avoid these two so conditions, they go for winter sleep as well as summer sleep. And winter sleep itself is called as hibernation. What it is known as? Hibernation. And summer sleep itself is called as starvation. Right? So these are the two words very important for NEET examination. You must remember these 2 points, right? They are very important for NEET examination, right? So one thing. And apart from these one, so they can change their body temperature according to the surrounding temperature. So that is one kind of so characteristic feature is there. Such kind of animals are commonly known as cold-blooded animals, or these are also known as poikilotherms or therms. Poikilotherms, these are also known as. So this is also very important word, remember. So what is this poikilotherms? So these are the animals which can change their body temperature to the surrounding temperature. Say for example, if the frog is there on land, so what is the temperature of its surrounding, to that temperature, its body temperature that changes. If it enters into the water, suddenly its body temperature acquaint with the surrounding water temperature itself. So that kind of animals which are commonly known as cold-blooded animals are poikilothermous animals. This is also one more unique feature of this frog. And the next unique feature of this frog itself is, so what is that? So that is camouflage. Camouflage is nothing but it is one kind of unique feature of these animals. What happens over here is, so these frogs sometimes they have the capacity to change their coloration, body color, to the surrounding color itself, right? They set their coloration of the body to the surrounding color itself. Say for example, in grasslands or in grass, usually frogs are not easily visible. So why? Because they are also green in color. That is why they acquaint their body color to the surrounding color. That is called as what? Camouflage, right? So this camouflage sometimes becomes the protective coloration, and that protective coloration itself so help for this animal to escape from its so predator animals. Say for example, so as to escape from the snakes, so its coloration, if it is so equal to the background coloration, then easily this predator animal, that is snakes, would not identify it very easily. That is nothing but, so it is said to be as mimicry. Mimicry is nothing but protective coloration. Protective coloration, again such kind of condition is known as what? Mimicry itself. Sometimes some of the animals mimic to their predators as if it's very dangerous than its predator. So that is also one kind of mimicry is shown by some animals by changing their coloration or by changing their body formation, right? So like this mimicry has been exhibited by some of the animals. This is also protective coloration is also one kind of mimic or mimicry exhibited by these frogs itself. These are some unique features what we come across over here itself, right? So this amphibian, that is so frog, whenever we see externally, means external characteristic features of frog whenever we see, so there some of the unique features that we come across. What are the unique features of this frog? Let us see one by one now itself. Let us start with the morphological features of frog. Morphology or morphological features of the frogs itself, right? So let us see one by one. Externally, how the animal is, right? So this animal has two major parts and the body is a streamlined one. Body is streamlined. So why body is streamlined is because it should cut through the water. It should pierce the water and move forward so as to do this activity, there is a need of a streamlined body. That's why streamlined body is also seen in fishes, right? So like this streamlined body it has, and body is divisible into two major parts. One is head and second one is trunk. These are the two parts that we come across over here. So head and trunk is there, but what is absent over here is neck as well as tail. These two are absent in this case, that is in case of the frog. So this is more important aspect to be remember for NEET examination. Okay, so there is no neck and tail are present over here. One exception is there. So tail, of course, it is present in larval stage. Larval stage it is present. So what is the larva of the frog? It is a tadpole. Tadpole has a tail, but there is no tail for adult frog itself. This is very important point for NEET examination. Okay, so this is about the body, head and trunk. It is divisible into. Let us start with the head part. What are there in head part? So see here, if this is the head part, then what are seen over here? A large bulged eye is seen over here. Okay, so in head part, so these are the parts that we come across. See here, so in this head part you will come across anteriorly mouth. Anterior mouth is there, and next one a pair of bulged eyes are there, and eye is uncovered with a membrane. So there is a membrane, and that membrane is called as nictitating membrane. What it is called as? Nictitating membrane. Eyes are covered with nictitating membrane. Very important membrane it is, right? There are no eyelids provided in this animal. Instead of that, one nictitating membrane is present over here, and this membrane that uncovers the eyes. So whenever the body of this animal is present inside the water, right? So this is the point to be noted over here. So this is nictitating membrane. A pair of nostrils, a pair of nostrils are present over here. So that is also very important for this animal. And so behind these eyes there is a structure. There is a circular structure usually you come across here, and that circular structure so is acting as the ear. So that is ear. Without the external ear, it is ear. So drum it is called as ear drum. You know, in our ears, external ear that we come across, there is no external ear provided in this animal. So, and this is commonly known as what? Ear drum, and that ear drum is called as tympanum. What it is known as? Tympanum, right? So this tympanum is nothing but eardrum which receive the sound waves from the external medium, and directly the inner ear is present over here. So this is also more important point to be noted over here for NEET examination, right? So eardrum or tympanum is present over here, right? So these are all structures that we come across in the head part, especially mouth. Whenever you see that moment, the mouth is looking to be as So like this, when it is opening its mouth, that moment it looks like this, and this is said to be as the upper jaw, and this is said to be as lower jaw. And on the upper jaw there conical shaped or triangular shaped teeth that you come across over here. These are nothing but teeth. So are seen over here on the upper jaw. So here the teeth are totally absent over here in the lower jaw, right? The point to be noted over here. And these are, all teeth are similar in their structure, so hence they are said to be as described as homodont. What they are described as? Homodont. And usually in human being, diphyodont condition is seen over here. In the lifetime of the human being, 2 times the the new teeth are arising, means first teeth, that is milk teeth, and afterwards the adult teeth that we come across, that is permanent teeth that we come across. So the hence it is called as diphyodont. But these teeth are temporary, so they are attached on the maxillary part or the mouth part itself. Hence these are called as acrodont. These are described as acrodont. These are described as, and even these are described as polyphyodont. Poly means many a times they fall and they grow, they regrow for many times, hence it is described as polyphyodont. Acrodont means, acro means at the tip. So at the tip of this jaw, there the attachment of the teeth that take place. So if any damage is there, immediately the falling of these teeth that take place, hence they are described as acrodont itself, right? So at the central part of this buccal cavity, there you come across the gullet. So gullet is seen over here. This is the opening of the digestive tract. So this is the initial opening of the digestive tract. So through the mouth, buccal cavity, through the buccal cavity, entry of the food take place into the digestive tract, that is. So next one is pharynx, esophagus, stomach, like this it continues, right? So this is about the gullet. And below the gullet there the large tongue is present over here. And one important point to be noted over here, the anterior part of the tongue is free and it is moving in our body, and the posterior part is attached, right? So but here it is a reverse case. So reverse in the sense that, so this is the anterior part which is attached to the anterior part of the mouth, and this is the posterior part of the tongue, so which is a free one. So that's why it is always bending like this inside the mouth, and whenever an insect or any other food animal that comes over here, it opens like this. This is how the arrangement of this tongue is seen over here. So this is nothing but tongue. This is about the buccal cavity, right? So this is how the opening, that is mouth, is seen over here. And what are the structures that we come across in the head part, I have already explained. And one more thing is, so usually in a rainy season, usually these frogs are seen over here, and these frogs, whenever they croak, what it indicates? So these croaking, so nature of these frogs that show the presence of the vocal cords. Vocal cords, a specialized vocal cords are usually seen in males, and they croak for attracting the females towards them, and that is nothing but vocal cords. The presence of vocal cords is the indication of the male animal, right? Male animal, right? So this is one more thing, so as to identify the male animal. So that is why here in males as well as females there are some changes in the morphological features, and it is described as sexual dimorphism. What it is called as? Sexual dimorphism. So this sexual dimorphism means sexually they are different. Male and females are sexually different. We can identify by seeing their external features only. See here, the croaking vocal cords are there in males. They are not seen in females. Externally we can identify them. And one more thing is, so in a female frog, so there is no nuptial pad. What is that? Nuptial pad. What is this nuptial pad? Also called as copulatory pad it is. See here, whenever we come across the first forelimb of this animal, there are 4 digits are there. How many digits are there in forelimbs? 4 digits are there. The first digit has a pad-like structure and that help in pressing on the female during copulation. That is pseudo copulation, what we call it as. A false copulation they exhibit. These 2 animals exhibit. So that pad-like structure which help in pressing on the female animal, and that pad is called as nuptial pad, or it is called as copulatory pad, and the presence of copulatory pad or the nuptial pad indicates that this is the male animal. This is how sexual dimorphism is a very important characteristic feature. So that is seen in frogs also. Okay, so this is also one more point to be noted. So here all those things what I have explained is regarding the head part. What are seen in head part? So nostrils, a pair of nostrils, a pair of bulged eyes and vocal cords, right? So as well as a tympanum or eardrum. So all these are the things that we come across over here, right? So the next one is a trunk. What are seen in a trunk? How the trunk is divisible into? Let us see now. Now the trunk part. In trunk part, usually skin is the major part. So the entire body is uncovered with the skin. This skin has special characteristic features. The skin in frogs is very thin in nature and it is moist in nature and it is highly vascularized. It is highly vascularized. These are the 3 important features that we must remember over here. What is that? So the skin is very thin, moist as well as vascularized. So since it is thin, right, and moist, why it is moist? Because of the mucus glands present over it, and these mucus glands they secrete mucus. They secrete mucus that keeps the skin always moist, and since it is highly vascularized one, highly vascularized means provided with blood capillaries. Blood capillaries are there. So because of this reason, this animal is able to respire with the help of the skin, right? So that kind of respiration is called as cutaneous respiration. What it is called as? Cutaneous respiration is a unique feature of this frog. Respiration that take place because of, so through the skin itself, right? So this is also very important point to be noted over here for NEET examination point of view. Cutaneous respiration is seen over here in this animal, right? Since it is thin, moist as well as highly vascularized. So usually, so this skin is used as the respiratory organ whenever the animal is there in water itself. Whenever the animal is there in water as well as during hibernation, means it is sitting inside the burrows and aestivation, where you will find this cutaneous respiration during all these situations. So cutaneous respiration is taking place by this animal, that is frog. Okay, so this is how the skin is, right? And one more thing. So here trunk itself has two pairs of limbs are there in this animal. Two pairs of limbs are there. One pair is four limbs and one more pair is hind limbs. Remember, there are two pairs of limbs that we come across, four limbs as well as hind limbs. And four limbs have four digits. How many digits are there? 4 digits. And hind limbs have 5 digits. And four limbs, they are, so usually front limbs they are called as, and they have 4 limbs, and these 4 limbs, so they help for standing purpose, and they are very smaller in size. They are smaller in size, and there is a web between the fingers also, right? So if it is the finger, so like this, there is extension of the skin between the fingers that is seen over here. This is webbed feet, it is said to be as described as webbed feet. And so hind limbs also described over here. Hind limbs they are very strong and they are longer than the forelimbs. And these hind limbs, they help for hopping purpose, they help for burrowing purpose, they help for hopping purpose, they help for burrowing as well as swimming, right? So they are little longer than the forelimbs. And these limbs which have 5 digits, right, which have 5 digits that we come across over here, and there also the extension of the skin between the digits, and this is also the webbed feet. So already I had told you there is one pad below the first finger, that is called as nuptial pad, is the indication of the male frog itself, right? So this is how 2 pairs of limbs that are seen in case of the frog itself. So these are all important features of the frog related with the morphology of the frog, that is external features of the frog. I hope you have understood all these one, and these things are usually studied in amphibia. Class amphibia, you have studied all these characteristic features. So there you concentrate over those points which are there in NCERT. Every point is covered over here. And the next one is the digestive system of the frog. Let us go through the digestive system of the frog now itself. Let us start with the digestive system of frog. Digestive system mainly comprises of certain parts, like first one, that is mouth is there, second one is buccal cavity, third one pharynx, fourth one esophagus, fifth one stomach. Sixth one, intestine, especially here duodenum as well as ileum parts that we come across over here in the intestinal part. And a large intestine has, this is small intestine, what we call it as. Large intestine has only the rectum, right? So these are the major parts that we come across in the digestive tract of this frog. So let us see the frog's digestive tract itself, right? So as I had shown you, there the mouth is conical shaped one. Mouth is conical shaped one. It has what? Teeth over here. And what kind of teeth do they have? Everything I have explained. So this point from where I shall start. What is this point called as gullet? Gullet is the entrance of the digestive tract. It is an entrance of the digestive tract. So I shall start over here itself. This is gullet. So from which a tubular structure that we come across here, that includes buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, so stomach, right? And here we come across a bulged structure, that is stomach, what we come across here. So after that stomach, next important point is the duodenum. This is the duodenum, and highly coiled structure, that is ileum, and it is followed by the last structure, this is rectum. Large intestine is indicated by the rectal part, right? So this is said to be as rectum. It is invisible to you. So this is gullet is seen over here, and later the pharynx, esophagus, and this is stomach. In stomach, there we come across two parts. One is called as pyloric stomach, and another one is pyloric stomach, another one is cardiac stomach. So these are the two stomachs, two parts that we come across in the stomach, and it is followed by the duodenum. The next part is related with the small intestine. This small intestine, the first part of the small intestine is duodenum, right? And it is followed by highly coiled structure, it is said to be as ileum. And the last large intestine that contains the rectum, right? So these are the major parts of the digestive tract of this frog. It is very simpler structure that we come across over here, and let us see how the mechanism of digestion of the food that take place. So along with this one, the main important thing is this digestive system of the frog mainly consisting of two things. One is called as alimentary canal and digestive glands. So this I had left, actually this is the major aspect how we divide into. So whatever you are seeing in the diagram, it is nothing but it is simply the alimentary canal what we are seeing. So along with this one, it is associated with some of the glands. See here, the major gland itself is the liver. So this is the liver, right? So this liver has the associated structure that is gallbladder, right? Associated structure called as gallbladder is there. And remember, here there is a duct, a common opening, so that comes from, so this is the common opening that comes from the duodenum, and it has two major structures or glands so connected with. One gland is liver, largest so gland in the body, and another one is, what is this one? This is pancreas. Pancreas, remember, so this is the pancreas and this is the liver. So this liver is associated with the gallbladder. Liver secretes bile juice. Liver secretes bile juice. Very important point to be noted over here. Liver secretes bile juice, and this bile juice is stored inside the gallbladder. It's stored inside the gallbladder, and so through this duct, which is a common passage for both pancreatic juice as well as bile juice. So this duct itself is called as bile duct, and this is pancreatic duct, and bile duct as well as pancreatic duct. So both together, that is liver duct, so or hepatic duct, it is called as a common passage itself is called as hepatopancreatic duct, which opens into the small intestine, especially the duodenum, right? So this hepatopancreatic duct that opens into the duodenum. Very important point to be noted over here, right? So now pancreas itself is one of the glands which secretes pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice that contains many of the digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes are present over here. Many of the digestive enzymes are present in the pancreatic juice, and bile juice also there. So these juices that come from respective structures into the duodenum, right, and that help in digestion of the food material. Along with this one, so this stomach is also there. Inside the stomach, there HCl is secreted over here by specialized cells, auxinic cells, like cells that secrete HCl. Along with this HCl, pepsin is also the enzyme which is secreted by the gastric glands. In the inner wall of this stomach, so there you will come across some of the glands, and those glands are called as gastric glands, and those glands which secrete so pepsin as well as HCl like chemicals or the enzymes, right? They also help in digestion, right? So these are the things related with the anatomical structure. So the mechanism of digestion, let us explain. So you people note down all those things whatever I explain thoroughly. So orally also many of the things are said by me. So repeat the video and note down each and every point, okay? So that is too essential for you people, okay? So let us see. Here is a bilobed elongated tongue is there in the mouth of this frog, right? So it is just like this. Whenever insect comes over here, it so comes out, it is stretched by the animal, and that animal, I mean the prey animal, is caught by the tip of the tongue. So at the tip, lobes are there. So with the help of that one, it capture the insect and usually it engulf the insect. So why it engulf directly? Is there any possibility of digestion of that insect? So inside the buccal cavity, I mean inside the oral cavity or not? Let us see. See here. So inside this buccal cavity or oral cavity, there are no salivary glands. If the salivary glands are not there, then there is no digestion that occurs in the oral cavity or and since these are carnivorous animals, so this is carnivorous animal. Since it is carnivorous animal, it feeds on insects or some other small animals, right? So it feeds on, and that animal is directly consumed by this animal, and that enters into the gullet and it comes and reaches directly the stomach. Whenever the animal that reaches directly the stomach, there the secretion of HCl as well as pepsin like enzymes that take place, so by which are present in gastric juice. So gastric juice mainly consisting of HCl as well as pepsin like so the chemicals, and this help in digestion of the food material, right? So these enzymes secreted by the gastric glands, so they help in digestion of the food material inside the stomach. Now partially digestion occurs over here, right? Partial digestion occurs over here, that is the digestion of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, etc. that takes place partially inside the stomach with the help of some of the enzymes as well as HCl, right? So and the partially digested food is called as the chyme. What it is called as? Chyme. Chyme that comes to the duodenum. Where it comes? It comes to the duodenum, where the secretion of the pancreatic juice as well as the bile juice take place, and that reaches the duodenum with the help of hepatopancreatic duct over here. Okay, and whenever the chyme, partially digested food that passes through this duodenum, it mixes with the pancreatic juice as well as bile juice. Bile juice help in emulsification of fats. Emulsification of fats. Emulsification of fats has been done by the bile juice, and so the pancreatic juice, which contains many of the enzymes for the digestion of carbohydrates, proteins, etc. Okay, the digestion of the food starts over here once again in the duodenum, and that chyme regularly that enters into the ileum. Next part is ileum. So ileum is a little coiled structure and whose wall has some of the glands, intestinal glands, right? Intestinal juice it produces, and that juice contains many digestive enzymes, and those digestive enzymes start to digest the food material. The complete digestion of the food material that take place inside the ileum itself. Whenever the complete digestion take place inside the ileum, so there what happens? So there inside the ileum, there you come across some of the structures I shall draw over here. So this is the inner lining of the intestine, and there you come across many finger-like projections that are made within the inner wall of the ileum or the intestine. So these extensions or finger-like extensions, what we come across in the inner lining of the intestine, they are called as villi as well as microvilli are present over there, and these increase the surface area of the absorption. See here, if the intestine is like this, then the surface area is this much only. If the intestine has this kind of finger-like projections over here, and this increase the surface area, whenever you stretch that one, this becomes this much elongated. So this is how the absorption surface area that increases because of these villi as well as microvilli that are present, that makes the inner lining of the intestine, that help in the absorption of the digested food. Is it clear? Now the digested food that mixes with the blood. So why? Because the blood capillaries that surround this intestine, exchange of the materials that take place. Why? Because inner wall of the capillaries as well as inner wall of this intestine itself is lined by one of the epitheliums, columnar epithelium as well as the squamous epithelium. Easy exchange of the materials that take place between them. So now the digested food that enters into the bloodstream, and the undigested food that comes over here to the what? Rectum. The undigested food that comes to the rectum, inside the rectum it is stored over here. Undigested food, undigested solid food is stored over here, and this undigested food, it is removed through the cloaca. Very important feature, it is cloaca. What is this cloaca? In external features I would have explained this one. So see here, cloaca is the common passage or the common opening, so that helps in removal of the undigested food material, that is excretory product, and it is also opening for removal of the waste products, that is nitrogenous waste, that is urine, and it is also helpful for the removal of or passage of the products of the reproductive system, that is nothing but removal of sperms as well as eggs through this common passage. That's why remember, cloaca is a common passage, for three systems over here. One is reproductive system, and excretory system, as well as one more is the undigested waste food is also means digestive system. Undigested food is also removed through this one. So that is called as cloaca. Cloaca is present over here in this animal. So this is about what? So this is about the entire digestive system that we come across in frog itself. So this is about the alimentary canal as well as digestive glands and the mechanism of digestion. Now we shall start with the respiratory system in frog. So what is this respiratory system consisting of? Basically, let us see. So these animals are also So respiring with the help of a specialized organs called as lungs. Okay, so those lungs are present over here. As I had drawn the diagram of the mouth, there you will come across the gullet over here. Above the gullet there is another opening is there, and this is called as glottis. Glottis, through which the air that enters in. Right. So since it is gullet, so it enters into the large lungs. What we come across here, a pair of lungs that we come across over here. So this is nothing but glottis. Glottis, opening of this, so respiratory tract, and later it opens into, so what, the lungs itself. There we come across bronchi. There we come across the bronchi, right? A pair of bronchi. So consider, so this is the glottis, from which usually a pair of bronchi that we come across. This is one lung, this is another lung that enters in, a pair of lungs, and inside the pair of lungs there we come across what, the air sacs. These are nothing but alveoli. What these are named as? Air sacs called as alveoli, right? So this is how usually the entry of air take place through the nostrils. Nostrils is followed by the glottis. Glottis is followed by the, so next one this glottis is followed by the bronchi, right? Bronchi, and bronchi is followed by the lungs itself, right? Inside the lungs there you come across alveoli. So this is how the respiratory system in adult frog that we come across over here. So this kind of respiration which take place through the lungs is called as pulmonary respiration. This is one kind of respiration exhibited by the frog, that is pulmonary respiration. So respiration through lungs itself, one thing. And the second one is cutaneous respiration. Cutaneous respiration. Already I have explained this cutaneous respiration is a type of respiration which takes place through skin. So skin has some of the unique features, like skin is moist in nature, skin is thin, and it is highly vascularized one. So because of these three unique features, skin so help in respiration. That kind of respiration is called as cutaneous respiration. It is called as cutaneous respiration. Okay, so this cutaneous respiration is usually takes place by the frogs whenever the frogs are there in water, as well as hibernation, as well as estivation. So during these conditions only they respire with the help of the skin. This is one thing. And third type of respiration, that is with the help of buccal cavity, buccal respiration. Buccal respiration. So through the buccal cavity also they respire. Why? Because this buccal cavity is also lined by the mucous membrane, which is thin, and so it is moist. So sometimes what happens over here is, so here since it is moist in nature, so because of the mucus which is secreted by the mucus glands present in the oral cavity or the buccal cavity, so what happens over here is, So the air which is intaken through the nostrils, that is stored inside the buccal cavity. When the air is intaken by the animal through the nostrils and it is stored inside the buccal cavity, and there the glottis is also closed, that moment what happens, since the oral cavity, buccal cavity, it is lined by the mucous membrane. So mucus is moist in nature. The oxygen that dissolves into the mucus first, and later it is highly vascularized, it goes to the blood itself. This is how the exchange of that gases that take place over here. So now the gas is entered into the blood, and after that one, once again the deoxygenated that blood, gas that has to come out, that moment, so the glottis is closed. So that moment once again the deoxygenated air or the CO2 that comes into the buccal cavity and it is removed through the nostrils. This is how buccal respiration that take place inside these frogs. Okay, and so once again one more thing is there. So sometimes the frogs that respire with the help of gills. So gills are the respiratory organs in frogs. When the frogs are in tadpole stage, when the frogs are in tadpole stage or larval stage, right? So here the gills are present over here in this animal. So since it is aquatic in nature, it respires with the help of the gills. So these are the methods of respiration with the different organs that is seen in case of frogs. So this is about the respiratory system in frogs. Okay, so these are some of the anatomical aspects that we discussed till now. So after this one, let us go through other anatomical aspects in the next video. Thank you.